Hello there, Andrew Jobling, the accidental author. Wonderful to be here. And as you can see next to me, I have this incredible guest. Hello, Flic Manning. How are you?
Hello, Andrew Jobling. I'm great. How are you?
Good, I'm good. We start all of our conversations very formally, don't we?
And then we just unfold it as we go.
Yeah, we just relax totally
Exactly.
after about a minute or so, but
hmm
formal is important.
Exactly.
Flic, thank you for being here. If people watching this may have listened to my most recent podcast, you were the superstar of that podcast.
Oh, thank you. I had so much fun talking to you.
Yeah, it's good fun, isn't it? It's
It
great
is.
sharing. It's great
Yeah.
just knowing and believing that what you've got is going to have an impact on lives. That's why I love what I do, because I know, and particularly these conversations with other people, if I don't believe
Yeah.
in myself, at least I know I can believe in you to you'll give great information.
There you go. Exactly. That's what it's all about, sharing, like you said.
Yeah. So in the podcast, Flic, you spoke a lot about your story, so we won't go into too much detail about your
Sure.
story right now. Just for people that are watching that haven't listened to the podcast, it's called All Day Wellbeing. And Flic's story, she's lived pretty much a whole life, really, isn't it, Flic?
Yeah. I've
With
fit a
chronic
lot into
illness.
my 38 years.
You are
It's
not
a full
38.
lifetime. I am. I'm 30. I'm 39 in January, in fact. So
Gosh,
I'm heading towards 40.
you look like you're still in your teens.
Oh, well, that's the well-being stuff for you, right? Like it's all good stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you've lived your life really with a lot of struggles and a lot of doubt and a lot of fear
hmm
and really having to focus every single day on your health and well-being. You've been
hmm
forced to because of the physical conditions you've had.
Yeah,
But that's been a bit of a blessing in disguise, hasn't it?
absolutely. I mean, it's I know we spoke about this in the podcast, but it can serve either as a catalyst to make change and adaptation to learn, or it can bury you. I think that's kind of the two ways that these things tend to go. And I was not going to let it bury me, that's for sure. So I've spent most of my life just trying to navigate how to be who I want to be and do what I want to do, despite the obstacles that have been placed in front of me due to my health or due to the way society views my health conditions.
And I think that's the key message, isn't it? That we're going to
hmm
really sort of build on today. A lot of the challenges you've faced, yes, you've got some physical limitations, but some probably the greatest challenges is other people, right? Other people's opinions, society
100%.
opinions, what they
Yep.
believe you should do and shouldn't do and have got and haven't got. And
Yep.
that's been a real challenge, hasn't it? Just tell us
100%.
a bit about that, because
hmm
I know a lot of you mentioned in the podcast, a lot of people didn't believe you when you spoke about how you're feeling and some of your symptoms and tell us a bit about that and how that's then led you to wanting to write a book and how that's then helped you actually get the book written, published, and out there making a difference. And just by the way, Flic is a published author of a book called Living Human, uh,
hmm
and it's an amazing book. So
Thank you.
tell us a bit about that evolution.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, it is a huge journey, and it is always one that I think particularly other people that might be going through similar situations or observe other people go through similar situations. There is such a belief in the world around us, and it's called ableism, but essentially it means that people discriminate and make assumptions about what someone's capabilities are on these really outdated, deeply damaging ideas of what they should and shouldn't be able to do. And for a long time, really, even up until recent history, people with disabilities and chronic illnesses were very often institutionalized or put away in the corner so they couldn't be seen and couldn't be heard from. And those sorts of things still thread their way through different industries. They certainly thread their way through the government, through the healthcare system, and then that obviously all filters down to how you function with a chronic illness or a disability. And it's in family situations, it's basically everywhere around you, people sort of speaking for you, speaking about you, but not really allowing you to have that voice yourself. And so I became really determined to sort of change that situation, not just for myself, but certainly for other people that might be going through that same situation. I was really determined to find a quality of life for myself that was inclusive of my chronic illnesses and disabilities, not in spite of them.
Yeah.
And so I really allowed that to thread into wanting to be in all sorts of different places and all sorts of different mediums. I'd always wanted to write a book. And sort of seemingly out of nowhere, I got a reach out from a wonderful publisher called Indigo River in the USA, who'd been watching some of the things that I'd been doing in terms of podcasts and articles and things I'd been putting out about, my story and chronic illness advocacy and other things like that. And they wanted to see whether or not I wanted to put something together. And we kind of went back and forward about what that would be. But one thing that was great is that they really allowed me to have my voice and have my say about what I wanted to share. And ultimately that came down to sort of, I guess, my top 11 stories that would show how, not just how I navigated making my way through chronic illness and disability, but how the lessons that I've learned from that have threaded into how I operate in business, how I operate in relationships, and just life in general. And again, just that reclaiming of saying, you will not dehumanize me. I am a living human.
That's awesome. That is so good. And that's such a powerful message, because I think probably for most people, the greatest barrier to their achievement, success, happiness, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
is their, what's the word I'm looking for? Their allowing of other people to dictate their life.
Yeah.
And people want to dictate your life. In particular, I would imagine, Flic, for you, a lot of people did it from a very loving platform.
Mm-hmm.
Family, trying to protect you, medical practitioners doing the best they can, based on the statistics and what's
The
happened
information they have,
previously,
yeah.
the information they have.
Mm-hmm.
What they fail to take into account is individual difference and mindset and determination and a whole range of factors and character traits that people have that will never be measured on any statistical, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So this
100%.
is a great challenge. What I'm saying is this is a challenge for everyone, and certainly people go through the process of writing a book. They're often dealing with their own insecurities and fears, always worrying about what other people are going to think about them.
Yeah.
So
and I mean, look, I definitely confronted that.
Of course you did. So the question then is, how did you deal with it? What was it that, because you've got an incredible inner strength, Flic. I mean, where does that come from? And is it something, how do you help people develop that?
Yeah, that's great questions. Look, I mean, I've certainly been tested, and there's certainly been plenty of times, even in the writing of the book, where I did have those confronting thoughts. What are people going to think, particularly when it is a memoir? What are people that I'm referencing in my story going to think about what I have to say, my view on it? How am I going to approach all of this? How are people going to take the fact that I'm saying things about, the medical system that, unless you've probably had an invisible illness, wouldn't necessarily make a lot of sense to you, those kinds of those things. And I just sort of had to keep coming back to, like, no, this is my story. This is me about being a full and complete human being, including all of that, the warts and all. And I'm going to be open and authentic about that, because I genuinely believe that's significantly healthier for me. It's proved to be a much healthier way for me to live my life, and that I have to sort of practice what I preach, for want of a better description, and to guide other people. I need to be that representation. We all need someone to look to or listen to that guides us in a way that starts to edge us towards the journey that feels authentic to us, especially when the world around you is constantly, as you've said, telling you to do whatever they think is going to be right for you. Even when it's very well-meaning, very often it ends up sort of pigeonholing you in a place that's not comfortable, or it doesn't allow you to flourish. So, it's definitely been about looking at those journeys. I think some of it was maybe just naturally ingrained in my DNA. My grandmother, long passed away, had an incredibly challenging life, and watching her and how she navigated being just the warmest, most beautiful human being you could ever imagine was such a light for me, and definitely something that I found myself naturally grouping onto as I started going through my own struggles and journey. And I've certainly turned to her sort of many times on the journey, and I talk a lot about her in the book as well. So she was definitely a guiding light for me, I think, in a lot of ways, and how to do that. But another part of it was just that I had certainly made a promise to myself, a very distinct promise to myself, that because I was a deeply suicidal teenager going through all of this stuff and thinking the world is not designed for me, no one wants me here, no one believes me, it would be better for everybody if I left. And I knew exactly what I was going to do, when I was going to do it. And it will, in the unraveling of all of that, I sort of made a promise to myself one night, crying myself to sleep in pain, saying that if I work out a way to stay, if I really commit to staying in this world and working it out, then I'm going to share that journey. And if I can make this happen, then nothing else is going to affect me. I'm not going to let it affect me. So I just kind of keep coming back to those things over and over again, and being as authentic and honest as I can about the human being that I am, which includes my flaws, it includes my insecurities, it includes my pain, the whole spectrum. I think there's place for all of it. I think it's all part of the real package. And as I said, I think representation is key. So when I'm struggling, I think someone else out there is struggling and they need somebody to be the light that tells them to stay.
That's amazing. Wow. I really don't need to say anymore. I think we could end this conversation right here. And
Sure.
that, wow, just, I hope if you're watching this, you got that. Wow. Fully inspired, because I think there's a couple of things there. The first one was your grandmother, and having that shining light, having that person that is always there for you, to guide you and to support you and encourage you, irrespective of what the rest of the world's saying. So I think that's a really key person to have in your life. I mean, you don't have that person. Well, if you're watching this, you should have that person, because hopefully I'm that person, but I'm definitely here for you. But find a person that you can be you with.
Yes.
And then I think the other thing, Flic, you've just got this something about you. You've got this incredible belief in you, which you've obviously worked on.
Yeah.
And you know that your message and your voice is important. How do you help people develop that, like build that? Because I think there's so many people don't speak.
Yeah.
And they'll write a book, but they will never put it out there.
Yes.
Or they won't finish it because they'll go through this mindset, well, no one wants to hear this anyway. No one wants to hear my story. Why is this important?
I
And it
think
is, and everyone's story is important, and
so important.
and no one's perfect. We've all got our walls. We've all got perfect. My gosh, we've all got them. So how do we help people break through this? Is probably the greatest barrier to success, happiness, and achievement, as I said earlier, in anything. How do you help people?
I think it's about really getting down into the nitty-gritty with someone and being really authentic and honest with them. And sort of, like I say to people up front, like if I'm coaching them, or whether it's a friend or a family member, I'm very, very, to some extent blunt and honest with them. I'll sort of say to them, pain is part of the reality of life. These are, things are going to happen in your life that are going to be hard and that you're not going to want to deal with, because we are not taught to deal with any of these things. We're taught to only be happy and all of this kind of stuff. And I sort of say, well, when you learn to embrace and understand that and see who you are, how you react to all of these things, and understand what all of those triggers are, and reveal the full package of you, it takes a lot of the fear away, because you see it all, you understand it all for the first time. I think so much of what we run away from is the stuff that we imagine in our head. We imagine how you're going to react to it. You imagine how you're going to feel. You imagine you don't have any coping strategies for X, Y, and Z. But when you actually lay it all out and you sit in that bravery and you sit in your vulnerability, you can start to recognize that as actually power. It's the opposite of what we've been taught. Vulnerability has got nothing to do with weakness. Someone that can sit in their vulnerability and own that is the most powerful person in the room. And so if you can do that to yourself on a daily basis, and be really like full package you, the good, the bad, the in-between, all of the stuff, sit down, analyze, why did I react that way? Where does that come from? What can I do differently? Like all of those sorts of things are really important. And certainly my study in, neuroplasticity and neurobiology and all those kinds of things means I actively work on that every day. So I use things like mantras and stuff to create different neuro pathways in my brain to override some of the things that have been told to me over and over again in my life, that I don't have value and that I'm this thing that should be shamed and put in the corner because I'm disabled, or, all of these kinds of things that are constantly coming at me in the world. They are everywhere. Like I will never fit the picture of what the world portrays as being the perfect, full-rounded, healthy human being. So if I allow that voice to just be the only voice that gets in, I'm just going to sink underneath it. And I know that because I've been there. So every day I practice putting a different voice in my brain, different ways for my brain to react, and trying to sit in that and own that full piece of vulnerability. And that means sometimes sitting for want of a better description, sitting in my crap. Sit in it, understand it, feel it. Like I really, really believe there's a lot of purpose to that. And so when I coach people through, that's what I'm trying to take them through, is find your vulnerability, get comfortable with the uncomfortableness that is sitting in that vulnerability, and then harness it. Because once you can harness that, you're unstoppable. That's my 2 cents.
That's more than 2 cents. That's 5 cents.
Okay, well, there you go. Look,
No,
you get an extra 3 cents out of it.
That's amazing, Flic. It is.
Thank you.
I heard, I was just actually listening to an audio today, a podcast today, and she said, "Don't give the microphone to your negative self-talk," or don't give the microphone to your, something like that. Don't let your.
Yeah, I love that.
I can't remember. I'm stuffing this up.
Yeah,
no,
you're
what
not
I'm
at
saying.
all.
Don't give voice to that negativity.
Yeah. I like that one. That's the whole don't let other people, don't let the negative voices live rent free in your head, right? You pay rent. This is rent. How you live is the rent that you pay. So it's like, make sure you know where it's going. Oh yeah.
There's a massive cost for which voice you listen to,
and the people that you surround yourself
to. Yeah, and
so
what you're saying, Flic, is you're just saying you create your own narrative. You're in charge of that voice.
Yep.
No matter what all the noise is happening around you, you get to control the voice in your head, the power that you have. You get to make meaning of the stuff that's happened in your life.
Yeah.
You can then harness that to create this incredible.
But you've got to practice it. I mean, that's the point. It's a, like, as you were saying, I mean, with the podcast, you know, everyday well-being, I mean, like, it's part of that. It is all part of that same picture holistically, what's going on in your mind and your body. It's a two-way street. It's all operating together to some extent. And I really believe that they both end up influencing each other in a lot of ways, right? Yeah, exactly. We can either choose it or not.
We're doing it every day anyway. And if I'm talking to someone and they're going, yeah, but, or yeah, I didn't do this because then you're reinforcing, you're affirming every day the wrong stuff. Well, the stuff that's going to lead you to
exactly
because we will just divert. For some reason, we just seem to default to negative, doubt, fear.
Well, because we're hardwired for survival, and survival means looking at things like fear, and you know, so a lot of our stuff is like this really old part of our brain, this really unevolved part of our brain that's essentially like a lizard brain that just reacts to things as like, oh, that felt bad, I don't want to do it again, I don't want to go near it. But the more evolved human that we are, we have the ability to look at that information and voice and say, well, I understand that, but it's not the same as me being chased into a cave by a woolly mammoth. So I've got to kind of get a reality check on myself, and also just being real with all of it. As I said, it's not about steering away from the negative or pretending that none of that exists. It's actually looking at the whole spectrum. So, you know, I think when you can do that, it's much more powerful. But yeah, you need to do it every day, every single day.
Well, and again, so if people don't feel overwhelmed with this, as I said, and as we've said, you're doing this every day anyway. You're just doing it with the wrong voice, with the wrong message, with the wrong narrative. All you can do is just keep doing what you're doing, but deliberately insert the right narrative, that your voice is important, that your message will make a difference, that you're a strong, capable person, and that your vulnerability is your greatest strength, that you're courageous. They're the sort of voices you want to be deliberately putting in. And when you hear that negative, you accept it. It's okay, you're there, but that's not me anymore. That's not me. I'm not a procrastinator anymore. I don't do it anymore. I'm the action taker. I'm the one that makes this book come alive. I'm the one that inspires people all around the world. And
and I think at the end of the day, just imagine that, you know, we're so good at treating other people with the kindness and love that we want. We often project that onto other people because we want it to come back. And in reality, the person that you have the biggest relationship with is yourself. The home that you live in is your body every single day of your life. Those things won't change. We're not, you know, we are what we are. We live inside our skin suit, our little home. And so you've got to learn to fall in love with yourself. That includes all of the cracks in the plaster and the chair that's got a wonky leg and everything else. It's all part of the same package. So I sort of think of it that way, as when we can learn to kind of do these things, we foster love for ourselves, and then that love comes out tenfold to other people and we receive it back. It's this cyclic thing that goes on and on and on. So if you want a lot of positivity in your life, not only do you have to give it to yourself first and foremost, it really has to be you, number one, but then also foster it out in the world. So give it and receive it.
I mean, all this stuff keeps coming. This is going to end up far longer than this book, but it doesn't matter. But I mean, because it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, most people want to help and inspire other people. I mean, everyone I work with, you know, who are writing a book, you don't write a book because you've got nothing better to do. You write a book because you want to inspire and help. Yet we beat ourselves up. We beat ourselves to a pulp all the time. And it's really important to know that you can never really, as you just said, you can never really inspire and help other people if you don't love you. You know, you can never outwork lack of self-worth. You can't outright lack of self-belief. You know, you've got to build you first and foremost. You've got to trust your voice.
Yes.
Anyway, we could talk forever on this stuff.
But
instead of doing that, what I want to do, Flic, is just let people know how they can reach you if they want to talk more about this stuff, if they want to get hands on your book, how they find you.
Sure. I mean, probably the easiest way is to go straight to my website. It's flicmanning.com.
So appearing on the screen right now.
You can get my book from there. You can reach out to me from there. You can see other videos and bits and pieces. You can hear me on the radio, like all of it's kind of a one-stop shop. But otherwise, of course, reach out to me on social media. I'm pretty much at Flic Manning everywhere. So it's pretty easy to find. And I love reaching out and connecting with people. So don't be afraid to slide on into my DMs and ask me questions or reach out and get to know you. That's what this is all about.
Don't afraid. There's no more fear.
No more fear.
We're just doing it,
Or more like just look at the fear and say, okay, I'm just going to carry you with me in the backpack, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's fine.
Flic, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrew.
Champion. All the best with your book and all the other amazing things you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.